to create a brand awareness. The content should always be valuable. It should be educational. It should be, educational. It should be actionable. It should be relevant. Now, what do I mean by relevancy? And I really want to focus in on here because I feel a lot of people sometimes drop the ball when I refer to the word relevant, meaning that it needs to assert what's going on in the news. It needs to assert what's going on in the world. It needs to assert pop culture trends. If anything, if you could reference pop culture trends. If you do any type of research on social media that has the greatest level of leverage or shareability or virality are pieces of social media that are just in time. And a lot of people reference the Oreo campaign back at the Super Bowl where the lights were out. I believe it's the Super Bowl about 2 years ago where the power is out. But Nabisco, classically, real time, and social media managers were waiting by looking for something relevant to put to raise the awareness of the Oreo brand and saying, hey, you can still dunk Oreos in the dark. And that was classic because they shared this during the Super Bowl where the power was out. And yes, you can eat Oreos in the dark. Okay? You also want to make sure when it comes to the awareness of your brand that it's shareable. You want the content that you create, the digital assets that you try to leverage, you want all of that stuff to be very shareable. And ultimately you want to build some type of trust and also to do what? You want to inspire that user-generated content. But ultimately with that user-generated content, enough of that snowballs and this person is now sharing or even and sometimes criticizing your particular brand. You know, it presents an opportunity for you to turn them into an advocate, which is kind of at the bottom of this kind of marketing strategy sales funnel for social media. All right, the awareness stage of the funnel is where you introduce potential clients to your offerings. You introduce them to what makes you unique. You introduce them to interact with your brand. You encourage them to remember your brand name so that when they make future purchases, they actually include your brand in the consideration mix. So most consumers have a consideration mix of about 3 different brands. So what do I mean by that? If you were to go to a restaurant and you're a big fan of Coca-Cola, okay, and if there was not a Coca-Cola available, now there are some very die-hard Coke fans, so I'm not trying to offend you, but most of you guys would be willing to take a Pepsi, okay? So Pepsi is a consideration brand for Coke and vice versa. Same thing for within our industry, within the lodging industry. If you talk about Marriott, so if Marriott's not available, our Courtyard is not available, a lot of people go to Hampton Inn, okay, although that's a Hilton brand. Okay, so most people have 1 to 2, maybe 3 max consideration brands. So you start to get your consumers to consider your brand in the awareness stage, which will still be kind of the widest opening of the marketing funnel when we talk about social media strategy. So hotels that respond to social reviews, and I almost bypassed this particular slide, but hotels that respond more to social reviews grow their occupancy at faster rates. So there's research that's showing now that 6.4% points of annual occupancy growth is related to people that respond to negative reviews, neutral reviews, and even positive reviews. You have to understand that you're trying to take someone that is reaching out to develop a relationship with you by taking their time to leave you a review and actually go out and leave you a glowing review. You should take time out of your schedule. You should also match that by thanking them for their particular help there. All right, so still talking about awareness. In this discussion, as far as awareness is concerned, this conversations you want to start to develop with your clients, you can explore this across various social media platforms. So here I actually list a few social media platforms that are very popular for hotels within the lodging industry. And as you can see, I have your own blog. So all hotels should have their own blog. I don't care if you are the Lock Haven Fairfield Inn in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. You should still have a blog for your particular hotel. You should definitely have a Twitter account, have a Facebook account, have a Foursquare where people are allowed to check in to your property. Have a Flickr account where you just store stock photos or nice professionally taking photos of your particular property or your amenities or anything else that you can highlight your eatery or your place of lodging with. You should all have a YouTube video. YouTube is huge, not only from an engagement perspective, not only from a social sharing perspective, but also from an SEO, from a search engine optimization perspective. Video is much easier to rank in Google for very competitive key terms as compared to a blog or your www presence. Also LinkedIn. LinkedIn does allow for company pages, so if you're the GM and you have a LinkedIn page, it may be necessary for you to develop a company page for your specific restaurant, travel agency, tour company, cruise services, limo company, or whatever type service-based business you're in. Pinterest is huge, not only because about 58% of Pinterest demographic, 68% of Pinterest demographic is female. So why is this crucial? Because a lot of online purchases are actually made by females. So this is very interesting, and a lot of females do ultimately dictate the travel location destination for most couples. The female is usually the decision maker. The guy usually pays for it. Okay, and I'm not trying to come up with some gender jokes here. There's actually research that females typically do dictate more of the budget spend in households. All right, so now we are at step number 2, which is the consideration phase. So now that I'm aware of your